Hello and welcome to a vlog. We are vlogging the first steps, I guess, of the SPFBO contest. Now, if you don't know, there is a self-published fantasy blog-off contest ran every single year by Mark Lawrence. Essentially a contest that is just to help get some amazing self-pubbed books a little bit more marketing and to have some great books shine through to all of us and market them a little bit more. What happens is by the 1st of June, there is 300 submissions that have been gotten, and they are then split off into groups of about 25 to 30 books and sent to blogs. So I believe this year there are 6 blogs and they all have 30 books to read, if that is the math correctly. In the phase 1, which takes 5 months, the blogs will go through the slush pile of novels allocated to them and find one title that they want to put through to the final. So each blog does have a couple different bloggers involved that are reading all of the books, and then each blog does it kind of differently, but they will just read the books. They don't actually have to read every single book, but hopefully the goal is that they will read most of them and the majority of them and review a bunch of them and then put out their one finalist for the next phase. And in phase 2, every blog that is participated has to read the finalists. I think there actually might be 9 blogs. I don't know. I could literally go look it up, but I think there's 9 blogs. They read all the finalists, they then review their favorite and review the winner at the end of it. So you then will see a chart of the finalists. I will put up the one from this year, this previous year SPFBO 7, because we're now on 8, where you can kind of see what it looks like with all of them having a rating from each blog and the winner having the best overall rating. Now, the thing here is that the whole point of this is just to bring light to people. So although the winner obviously was an amazing book, part of the fun of this is you just read so many amazing books and so many amazing indie books get reviewed, and there is nothing better than someone raving about your book to be a way to get it out and marketed. And I mean, I've picked up a couple from this year I haven't read yet, but I know Burn Red Skies was a finalist in number 7, and I heard someone rave about it, so I picked it up. A Voice of War was in it one year. There isn't a lot of rules to this besides that it has to be fantasy, it can't be a short story, has to be only 1 book per author, and has to be the first in a series. There's a couple other ones that matter more to the author, but I feel like these matter to you. On Mark Lawrence's website, he does say if you call your book fantasy, it's fantasy. I'm not putting a rule or regulation on it, but it probably won't go very far if it's not, as these are fantasy reviewers that are blogging about it. And he does warn all the authors that the reviews are real. There might be some harsh reviews out there because you are more likely to trust someone's opinion if you've seen that they dislike some books. So if I liked every single book, why would you believe that this book is good? Where you know, because there's books that I don't like out there. And I will honestly tell you that books I like, you can trust. I am in no way associated with this, but I wanted to kind of follow along this year and read a bunch of the ones that interest me, and so I have 5 months to do that. This vlog will not be 5 months long. I don't plan on doing that, but I want to make a couple of them within this time period where I'm reading some of the ones that interest me. Let's get right on into it. So I have gone through and picked out ones that interest me, but I do actually own 3 of the titles this year already. 1 that I've read, 2 that I have not read. So we'll start with the one I've read, which is Kingdom of Essence by Harley Carlson. This was the first book I ever received a ARC of, or a copy to review, and I will always thank Holly for that. This was an incredible experience for me. I didn't overly love this book. I think I gave it a low 3. It's been a long time since I read it, but in my opinion, this is not the book for me. I'm not the target audience. My biggest issue with this was that it was a soft magic system, and I tend to be a hard no for soft magic systems. I find they lead to plot conveniences, and people will argue with me and say that not all do, but I haven't met one that doesn't lead to at least some kind of plot convenience at some point in the story. That's something that really irks me. I prefer a hard magic system, and I felt like this was written a little bit more towards YA. So I think it is a good book, and it's a beautiful cover, and I would definitely tell everyone to read it. But it just, if you prefer a high epic fantasy, something like Malice or Sanderson, this might not be for you. But if you prefer something like A Dark and Hollow Star, this might be for you. or The Nature of Witches. I feel like this is another good comparison for like the vibes I got. This is a little bit more epic high fantasy than this one, as there is like a whole unique world created, and the magic system in this is very, very cool. But yeah, I have read this one, and I wanted to put it out there for all of you. The other two that I already own, The Fangs of War by E.J. Dobell, which I purchased myself. I don't really know anything about this, but I did at the time of purchasing it, and I thought it sounded really good. Love this cover, and I'm excited to read this one. The other one that I own is Nomads of the Sea by Kobe Zucker, who I was sent this book by the author. This one does sound really good. I'm a little intimidated by it because it is a debut book, and it is a chunky debut book, but I am also excited to read this one. Now, other ones on my initial starting list, this is going to be a long video, so please sit tight here, is... Let me get this out. A King's Radiance by L.R. Schultz, The Cradle by Ron Sammy, The Soul's Aspect by Mark Holloway, In the Shadow Rune by Tony DeBaggio, and I think Lightblade by Samil Akatar. There are so many on this list that I'm also interested in, but these are just like the starting ones. These are ones that you might see in this video. I have no idea how many books I'm going to read in this video. These are the ones that have just caught my eye my first once over as I went through all these submissions. If you haven't watched a vlog of mine before, there are some things that you should know. I try to check in twice, always at the 50% mark and the final thoughts mark, but sometimes you do get some beginning ones or some just like random thoughts as I go. It will be spoiler free, so you can watch all of them. I think for this one I will be tagging, like timestamping each book, so you could go towards books that you're more interested in, because I have a feeling this is going to be a long vlog. When I do these like self-pubbed vlogs for fantasy, I do this thing where I give you a plot rating, a character rating, or world rating, and I'm thinking about maybe adding a magic system rating into this one, which are out of 5, and these ratings are a little bit different than your regular star rating, which you will get from me, where I will be just like kind of, where even if something gets a low rating, that doesn't mean it's like a low character reading, that doesn't mean it's a bad book. I'm doing those ratings for people who are character driven readers, who are plot driven readers. Personally, I think that world is a big thing too, so that's why I do the world. And so if you have a lower character rating but a higher plot rating, obviously you will know as a watcher and a reader that maybe if you know you are plot driven, that's the book for you. Vice versa, if you're character driven, that's not the book for you. So those are ratings that you will also see in this video for every single book. And now we're just gonna get to reading and not worry about all the technical stuff. And I hope you enjoy the vlog. My hair's wet. Sorry I haven't finished getting ready yet. I'm a decent ways through this book, The Soul's Aspect. I think I'm about 60% through, and I am not enjoying it that much, sadly. I think this is a book where if I had read it years before when I hadn't read that much fantasy yet, I might have enjoyed it, but I'm just seeing literally every fantasy cliche or trope is thrown into this book. You can tell that the author is obviously very in love with classic fantasy and inspired by it, but there's just not enough uniqueness to the story to grip me. It, for some reason, has major reminders to me of Master of Sorrows. I don't know if it's just because I kind of felt the same way about Master of Sorrows, where it was just like, it's okay, and because like the magic school scenario. But yeah, I don't know. We have a magic school. We have, I think we're about to come up on trials. We have a character who is just literally good at magic from the start. Like he's just the chosen one, essentially, and he's good at everything. We have our protagonist is also the small town's doctor's son. That's a very big cliche in fantasy. We have a magic system that quite reminds me of like the Wheel of Time magic system, but like I just feel like not done as well. I don't know, it's just, as I said, it's just so cliche. We have a group of friends. Yeah. And then my other big problem with this is that it is told in past tense, which is something I love and enjoy in stories when it's done well. So like Assassin's Apprentice is told in past tense as Fitz is telling his life story as he's older and kind of reflecting on it. But it has to be done so well. Same with like, I think like the Book of the Ancestor. I don't remember if it's told in past tense, but we get snippets of a future. So I think it is because we're in like present day and we're reliving Nona's past. Prince of Thorns also has that 4-year timeline gaps, so some of it's in past tense. And I love those books. I love when a story can write in past tense properly and well. But for this one, because it's told in past tense, it's very dry, matter of fact. We're not getting like the emotion behind these impactful moments. Like when something comes up that should be impactful, it's just because the author is like looking back on it as like past, that you don't get that like heartbreak or anything. They just don't go deeply enough into the emotion. And I think that I'm just having problems connecting with the characters and the story because of that. It's too point blank for me. I need a little bit more to like grip on. There's one other thing I was going to talk about and now I forget. I don't remember, but if I remember, I'll let you know. I don't know. It's not a bad story. I think I'm just feeling very like I don't have opinions on it really either way. Like it's okay. I don't love it. And that kind of sucks because I wanted to love it, especially because it's compared to The Poppy War. It's like a coming of age story and I want more to it. Yeah. So here's my opinions now. I'll update you when I'm done the book with more like thoughts about everything. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. The other thing that's kind of bothering me is that the main character just kind of accepts his fate. So in this world, the aspectors are bad. Like, they're not bad, but they're always talked about in a way that people don't like them. When they come to his town, the rest of the village is like doing the most to make it like an uncomfortable visit for them. They're not giving them the maps to places they need. They're like, figure it out all on your own. No one wants to help them. No one likes them. But our protagonist, when he learns that he has tools to aspect, he just kind of accepts it and he's happy to go, and he's just like, everything that's thrown at him, he's just like, okay, here we are now. And I don't believe that if you grew up in this like small town where everyone doesn't like aspectors, that you would feel so calm about it and that everyone around you would feel so calm about it. Like no one besides his father, which even then it didn't make a big deal about it, and like the people also he meets on his journey don't make a big deal about it, and I just don't get it. I feel like I needed more. I needed like you to like give me a thought process of why this is okay and why he should accept it, versus just being like, well, now I get to be an aspector that everyone hates, but I'm happy about it. Yeah, I don't know. I will update you at the end of the book when I'm finished and I have more full-fledged out thoughts. I want to say, like, it's not a bad book. Like, it's just easier to talk about the things you dislike in a book than things you like. I think this book is just sitting at a, like, solid middle point. Like, just 50%. It's just okay. There's nothing special, but there's nothing bad necessarily about it. It's just not great. Not that any of you need to know this, but I just hopped out of the bath, and so I finally finished the book. I finished the Souls aspect. I'm gonna preface this by saying that my ratings start at 0. I am not one of those people that starts my ratings higher. Like, I know a lot of people are like, oh, I don't really give out 1 stars. I give out 1 stars. 0 is a DNF. So if we go by percentage, 2.5 is 50%. This is going to probably get to the lowest 3 that it could possibly get. Right, if you compile, it's the lowest 3 it could possibly get. But that doesn't make it a bad book. I just stand by the fact that if I had read this at a different time, I possibly could have liked it. It just had too many fantasy cliches and tropes for me. It wasn't unique enough. The ending of this story, I think, is really where it starts to take off, and the ending, you can really see the grittiness start to happen. The book itself does remind me of Master of Sorrows, from the tropiness and the kind of the way the magic works itself, and the trying to be a villain origin story, but I don't think quite getting there. Like, I saw some reviews talking about how dark this book gets, and it doesn't get very dark. Maybe that's because I actually read and enjoy grimdark things like Prince of Thorns, and so this just, when you say dark, this just didn't go dark for me. I think the biggest downfall is comparing this book to things like The Poppy War and The Shadow of What Was Lost, these adult books. This was very close to YA in my opinion, and if you know me, I don't overly like YA books, and I tend to stay away from writing that flows that way. Although I will say that The Poppy War does have a very accessible writing style that kind of has a bit of a YA type to it, but with the concepts and the themes talked and discussed in it, it definitely leans more adult than anything else. I can see the groundwork in this for a great novel. I can see what the author was trying to do. He just didn't get there for me. I am intrigued enough that I could consider picking up the next book because I think that you can probably see him grow. As I saw the story grow from the first part to the end, I think that you will also see him grow in the series continuations. I just found this book so surface level, and I would say that was my biggest problem. I could not get invested into anything. I'm not a character-driven reader, but I couldn't get invested into the characters. I couldn't get invested into the world. I couldn't get invested into anything because it was just such a surface level read personally. There are some heartbreaking scenes that happen. I just didn't find them heartbreaking because I hadn't connected to anyone, and I will think that that's the fault of being past tense. I think that that just made his life harder. He had to work a little bit harder to connect me with these characters. I wanted a little bit more depth in the magic system. I enjoyed the magic system. I think at the end you can see the intrigue in the magic system, and I do see how it was compared and why it was compared to the Poppy War with the conversation on race and piggybacking off of those lower classes because you are a superior race. Quotation marks, because obviously they're not superior race, but that's how they believe themselves to be. But I don't know. I would have liked to get that conversation a little bit earlier on in the book. I would have liked to see more of how the magic system actually works a little bit earlier on in the book. I think something to do would have been really cool to almost have flash forwards to where he is now or in the start of the next book, so you could kind of see those like glimmers of where the magic system goes, because the magic system at the end of the book goes way cooler than where you started it with, but I needed to see it earlier on to be more invested in it, if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense. There's nothing else really to say that I haven't said. I just wanted more from it. I see the potential in this story, but it didn't reach it, and that's kind of sad. It's kind of sad. So I think if I'm doing the ratings for the world, the characters, and the plot, I think characters. Please remember that this doesn't mean it's a bad book in any way. These ratings are just based on the actual character, the world, the plot themselves, just to see if you are a character-driven reader. This book has more characters in it, more love of characters. The characters drive the story a little bit more than the other ones. I think I'm putting the characters at 2 out of 5 stars. I see the potential, but they're very tropey, they're very YA, they're very predictable, and very one-dimensional. I think I'm putting the plot at 2 out of 5. It has the same issues. It's a very one-dimensional plot. Nothing new, nothing unique to it. It is a good plot. It's a classic fantasy plot, but it's just there. It's just there. It's not a driving force to the story. And I think I will put the world at about a 2.5. I think the world is the best part. The magic system is quite cool when you get into the depth of it. The magic system itself probably would get a 3 out of 5, but the world wasn't fleshed out enough to get that 3. I would have liked to see more about the world and why it is the way it is. We do have a magic school in this, and the magic school did have some cool elements to it, but yeah, it just didn't get there for me. There's some cool, great elements. It just didn't get there for me. So sadly, I think that this is a bit of a letdown of a book for me. I hope other people enjoy it, and maybe if I had read it 4 years ago before I started reading a lot more fantasy, I would have enjoyed it more, which is always the problem. Sometimes wrong timing, wrong audience. I read a lot more high epic fantasy these days. I want a little bit more uniqueness to my stories. There we go. First read of the vlog down. Hi, it's me again. I'm in the same spot. So for, as the last clip for the last book, I started a Kings Radiance. I'm only done the prologue. I haven't even started chapter 1. And this prologue, you know when you read Illborn, or when I read Illborn, if you watched that vlog, if you haven't read it, and I read the prologue and I turned to this camera and said 5 stars. Literally 5 stars. I'm not as confident because Illborn scarred me because I never ended up giving it 5 stars. It was a 4-star read. But this prologue was that good. This prologue gives me great vibes. I'm excited for this read because of this prologue. The very prologue introduces you to the world so well and the characters that you're going to see. I understood the politics. I got a look at the magic system. I got a look at the family relations. I got to see the world itself and some of the different elements that happen in the world, all in that 15-page prologue, and it was done so well. It already feels very fleshed out. I feel like I know a decent amount of the magic system just going into that first page. I know what I need to know to really grip me into this story. I am very excited for this book. And I did go look at the chapters. Like, I wanted just to see how long the chapters were, and I went into this book thinking it was a one perspective book, and it's actually 3 perspectives, so I'm very excited. I love a multi-POV'd book, and that was a quite great surprise. I'm going to curl into bed now and read a couple more chapters, and I'm just very excited. I have high hopes for this one. I think it's gonna be a good one. I think it's gonna be a good one. So let's just see you in a little bit when I have read over 50% or I have something very interesting to say to you. Oh, please ignore the bedhead. I have been reading all day and not working like I am supposed to be. I am about 50% into the Kings Radiance. I am loving this story so far. I obviously can see, I shouldn't say obviously, I do have some issues with it. We have a romance with every character, which irks the bejeebers out of me. Like, I don't need every character to be in a romantic relationship. I just don't need that in my fantasy books. I honestly don't think that is relatable enough because not every single person gets into a relationship all the time. Like, not everyone wants a relationship, and I just think that sure, 1 or 2 characters can have a relationship in their POVs, but not everyone needs one, and all 3 of them have one. My other issue with this is the repetitiveness. There are some things that are just repeated and repeated and repeated. Obviously, I think that they're to drill that's important into your brain, so it's not the biggest deal in the world, but it's just a little bit of a writing flaw in my opinion. But so far, I am loving it. There are 2 really big mysteries at this point that I just can't wait to unravel. A King's Radiance, I don't know if I ever told you, is a story about a boy who his sister is taken and made a slave when she's about 12 and he's younger than her because she has violet eyes and they're rare, and he's pissed at everyone for not, his dad and his brother for not like saving her and doing nothing to save her. They're princes, they're royalty, and he seeks out, honestly, on like a quest for vengeance and revenge to save her. We follow the princess, we follow the princess and both of the princes. So one's the youngest prince and one's the oldest prince. And I'm loving it. There's not a POV that I'm not enjoying at this point. I'm really enjoying this one. I love where the story's going. The magic system is very unique. People have like light that comes out of them. So the more they're in the sun, the light of the sun soaks into them and gives them this light ability that's like burning in their blood and eventually becomes so much that they have to release it. So lots of younger kids die because when they release it, they just release it all at once and kind of burn themselves up. But you can learn how to use it, but still, like, often they will lose, people who have used it will lose, they'll burn their hands or their arms and they won't be able to like use that because they've burnt it too badly. It's really, really intriguing and I'm really enjoying it. This magic system is something so cool. I'm loving the world. We're learning so much. There's a class system that you're learning about and the current ruler. But yeah, so there's 2 mysteries that I'm just waiting to find out, and I'm so intrigued by how the King's Radiant and our Prince's King know each other, because King's Radiant is like God almost. In this, he's not God, but he's like the ruler of all. And then the other one is this Celtic, I don't know how to say his name, guy, why he's set on revenge, because he's like another part of this band, and I don't know. I'm just very interested in seeing his story. I think the 3 of them are going to tie together, and I'm very intrigued and excited, and I'm just really enjoying this one. I think it's going to be a 4-star. I'm sitting at a 4-star currently. It could get better. I don't think it'll get worse. So here we go. Wow. The bedhead was real. What? I just got to the second interlude, and What just happened? I finished Kings Radiance. I think I'm going to give it a low 4 stars. For a debut book, I would like to say this is quite incredible. There's obviously issues with some of it, but it's a debut. It's literally a debut. I think that this author is only going up from here. I am very excited to see where the story progresses, and because I think it's a series. I never even looked. I hope it's a series. Yeah, Bonds of Kin Book 1. And I'm just really intrigued. We have some issues with characters being a little two-dimensional. They're not terrible, but I just wish they were fleshed out just a little bit more and had a little bit more grit to them. They're all very like hero type, and I would have liked to see a little grit in there. Even the character that we tried to give grit was too heroic for myself. But I have potential to see him get grittier, and I would like to see that. I would like to see more of those dark moments, a little bit more morally gray, because it's just unbelievable that all these people are so heroic. I don't mind a couple heroic characters, but there's too many, and even the one character who was kind of doing the wrong thing because of his actions, you see just like flip a page at the end. So to give no spoilers away, the father is he's just at the end of the book, you just see it all flipped on him for no reason, and I wish that we had stayed gray. We had stayed gray there. I don't think everything needs a happy ending. And that would be my biggest issue, is there was too many happy endings in this book. Then the other one that's a little tough to talk about is one of the kingdoms is, I want to say, of African heritage inspiration. I'm not sure how well I enjoyed that being handled. I am a white creator though, so please, once this gets into the hands of own voices, please listen to them, and I'm very intrigued to see their thoughts on it, because honestly, I can't tell you if this was good representation or not. I can't fully tell you, and it's not a major part of the story, but it is in there, and so I just wanted to put that out there, that I'm not sure how well that was handled. So I'm very interested in seeing some own voices opinions, because I went through Goodreads and I don't think I saw any yet. But other than that, I really enjoyed it. I liked it. The world is incredible. I think the world building has the makings of a Sanderson type world building. Obviously, I don't think he's there yet, the author, but I think he could get there. And so I just gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I had a good time with it. A little bit of the pacing was off at the end. I felt like there were some issues with pacing. Some things get revealed too early on, so they don't like have a punch to you later. It is quite predictable, but I really enjoyed the ride I was on. So let's get into my ratings for characters, plot, and world, so that you can just see if this book if you're a character-driven reader, blah, 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 you know the drill now. So for characters, I think I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 5. They weren't terrible, but they weren't the best. For plot, I think I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5. I was intrigued the entire time by the plot. Although at times slightly predictable, I still really enjoyed it and found the plot to be a driving force to me reading it. And for the world, I'm giving it a 4 out of 5. I really, really enjoyed the world. I could almost raise that to a 4.5, but I think I'm sticking at a 4 because it wasn't perfect enough for me. The world is so intriguing, from the magic system to the ruling classes to all of that. That's all encompassed in a world to me, and I really, really enjoyed it. The magic system, personally, is a 5 out of 5. I loved the magic system in this. I thought it was so cool and unique. So this was a really good pick, and I hope to see it go further in the SPFBO competition. I will definitely be rooting for it a little bit, and let's get to reading our next read. I don't know when I updated you last. I think it was when I finished the last book, so I hadn't actually started the next book yet. So I started in The Shadow Rune by Tony DiBaggio. Sadly, I ended up DNFing this book. I just really couldn't get into it. It was very matter of fact, surface level. I could not invest myself into the characters at all. I just wanted to know more about them. I wanted to understand their motivations for doing things, and I just felt like I didn't get that. I just kept listening, and I was listening to the audiobook, although I did try the Kindle unlimited version first and read on my Kindle, and I wasn't vibing that way, so then I switched to audio. And yeah, I was very sad. I think I got about 8 chapters in before I officially DNF'd it. But I was 8 chapters in and I was like, I have no idea what's happening here. I couldn't care enough to actually pay attention. And for me, that's just like, I'm reading for enjoyment. At the end of the day, all my ratings are based on enjoyment, not necessarily technical skill. And I was not enjoying this book, so I just decided to DNF it. It is what it is. Hopefully the next one will be better. But also to give you a little update, I went to Value Village. Also, I'm sorry my voice is like croaking like crazy. I had a wedding on Saturday. It's Monday now. And it was a good 14-hour day, 12 hours of shooting, 2 hours of driving. And I yelled at a lot of people to listen to me, and my voice is hurting a little today. But I went to Value Village, and I normally never find anything I want, but I lucked out and I found Ashes of the Sun by Dango Wexler, and I'm so excited for this one. $5, and it looks like pretty good condition. A steal of a deal. I don't really know what this is about, but I believe Rachel suggested this author. And I listen to everything Rachel says. Rachel is at Argent Rabe on Instagram. She does not have a YouTube account, but she also has a podcast called Fantasy Book of the Month, or FBOM for short. And her and her friends talk about fantasy books and discuss them. It's kind of just a bunch of friends hanging out and chatting. It's very casual, and I do enjoy that in a podcast. So you should definitely check it out. If I remember, I'm going to link it down in the description bar below. Obviously, a lot of people watching this vlog are fantasy lovers, so I figured I'd plug it a little bit. But yeah, I love when I can find a good book at Value Village, because we fantasy lovers, I don't know if it's just me, but I struggle to find the fantasy books I want to read in like used bookstores or smaller bookstores. I'm honestly often buying a lot of books off Amazon because lots of like chapters and stuff don't even have some of the fantasy I want to read. But not to mention indie books stores, they struggle a little bit for me because I always find they don't have the genre I love, besides like some of the like classics that I'm less interested in. So Value Village is where my love is for used books, and it takes a lot of work because like I went and I only found this one, and this was a steal of a deal. Most of them are like mass market paperbacks, and I don't overly love mass market paperbacks, so I'm a little hesitant to buy them sometimes, but this was a full oversized paperback. Okay, I'm sick, so please ignore my voice, the coughs that are gonna happen, everything. I'm spending the day reading though, because I'm sick and I have nothing else to do. So I did start Nomads of the Sea by Kobe Zucker. I want to preface this by saying I was sent this book by the author for a review, but that in no way changes my thoughts or alters my opinions and my review on the book. I'm not far in. I'm like a chapter in. I think I'm halfway through chapter 2, so I'm like 20 pages in. But I wanted to come update you and just my first impressions of the book. I am really enjoying the actual like writing style. Lots of times with indie books, I find the dialogue to be a little like, I want to say fan fiction-y. Like the dialogue is just always the weakest point in lots of indies I read. And I am enjoying the dialogue in this. It's not too like cringe in the best, I don't know how else to explain that. But I will say it's a lot of information at once and a lot of fantasy terminology and names. I really wish, I never realized this was signed. That's so sweet that he signed it when he sent it to me. This is my first, I guess I bought the Mark Lawrence Prince of Thorns. Other than that, this is my first signed book. I do wish that, I'm just checking to make sure I didn't miss it, that there was a character, like, name thing, or even just like terminologies about the world and stuff, because there's a lot. But one of my favorite things in fantasy books is when they have like these little like quotes on before a chapter that kind of tell you something about the chapter. It's Robin Hobb does that, Legacy of Ash does that. I really enjoy that. Yeah, in the front of the book there's no like glossary, and I wish there was a glossary. Let me check the back, because sometimes they do go in the back. No, there isn't, and I really wish there was a glossary, just because even like when I'm reading the back of the book. There's just a lot of fantasy names, fantasy terminology, things that just, like, are a lot. That's really just my first impression. Other than that, I really do love, like, I am really enjoying it. 20 pages in, and it has some potential. It's a chunker, so it might take me a while, or because I'm sick and doing absolutely nothing, it might take me 24 hours. Who knows? Here we are. I'm gonna go read and cough as soon as this camera ends. So probably to no surprise to anyone watching this vlog, I tested positive for the word that shall not be named. Oh, look at your snuggle muffin. He came to say hi. Which I have a little bit of COVID brain. I'm reading so slowly. But I finally have hit the 50% mark of the book. You know, it took me a while, but I'm here. So I figured it's time to update you on what this thing is about. And I'm gonna try and keep this short so my voice likes me. Nomads of the Sea follows, it's not what I expected. The series is called The Fish Gut Guard, and on the back it says, witness the beginnings of a storied band of soldiers who came to be known as the Fish Gut Guard. So I kind of thought there's like, that's like the very end of the back. I kind of thought it was gonna be more about like a band of soldiers coming together, but we are in a very, very big military fantasy. And if you know me, you know I really enjoy military fantasy. Something like Legacy of Ash really pings to mind as a military fantasy that I love, and this does have reminiscence of Legacy of Ash in it. You are following the Mangal people, is I think how you pronounce it, who have zealous insurgents that are coming to war. So the extremists who are now trying to... There's extremists who believe that their culture is being left behind, and these extremists are now trying to, like, wipe everyone out who even, like, falters from their religion as they say, their culture as they say, and they're just, like, murdering everyone, villages, family, kids, and everything. So the rest of the Mangal people call the Listen, which is the, like, conquering nation, for help. And so there is, like, a really big discussion about the conquering of people and the taking away of cultures and the blending of cultures and the harm that does, but also some of the benefits it does, because it's not black or white. Well, it shouldn't be, it's not great, but there are benefits and negatives to nations coming together like this. And so you're following one of the sons of, like, the leading families of the Mangal people, as well as the physician of the Listen company, who is kind of, like, a bit more royal and well educated and stuff, who is there to kind of do, like, research, but also she's, like, a really great healer. And then on another continent of people who have already been conquered, you are following a mage of the royal army who has now lost his spark. And you're just following all of these 3 stories that are kind of heartbreaking as it's just, I don't know, it's just like a conversation on their cultural differences, and it's a little heartbreaking to see what's happening to some of them. And the one from the, like, Listen, which is, like, the conquering nation, how she kind of feels for them and understands that what her country is doing is wrong, and she's kind of, like, learning those ways. And I don't know, I love stories like that have this conversation, so I'm actually, like, really enjoying this. It's not what I thought it was going to be at all, and I'm really, really enjoying it. I think the author has done a really good job with it. It's slow, I will say. It's very slow, it's very dense. It's the slowness that you could compare to Robin Hobb, or even, like, Brandon Sanderson's Stormlight. Like, you are just getting so much information. The world building is immaculate. It's dense because you're getting so much information about the world and societies and the cultures. Like, everything is so well fleshed out. I'm really enjoying it. There are some things where I'm like, well, this maybe could have been cut out, because it's like, it's slow and steady, but at the same time, I've been enjoying where I'm going. So do I care that it's slow and steady? Not really, because I'm really enjoying it. So we'll see if I like the second half more. I will say I don't necessarily think this is a plot-driven book. I definitely think it's more of a character-driven book. It's not... The plot is not, like, racing you forward. There is a plot, but you're more spending time in the military, in the little army aspects. You're getting to know the different cultures. You're getting to know why they live on boats, and why the zealots think this way, and why the loyalists think this way. And you're kind of having discussions on, like, war itself, and how there is no honor in war, both sides do rights and wrongs, and like you on your side is like, I'm fighting for the right reason, so it's okay, and that's why I can kill all these hundreds of people. But you don't think about how the other side is saying those exact same things, and they have that conversation in this book, and I really like that. I'm really enjoying the discussions we're having in this book, and I think if you are a reader who likes those discussions, this will be the book for you. But I also understand why this book isn't for everyone. It's just one of those books that I hope it makes it farther at this point in time. I'm hoping it'll make it farther, but I could also see it get cut out early, because Hob is not for everyone because she's so slow and steady with her writing, and this is very slow and steady and very like conversationalist. Yeah, I need to go. Oh my god. I tried to look half decent because I feel not half decent. I finished Nomads of the Sea. Sorry. I just got out of the shower and I finished this yesterday, but I couldn't bring myself to come onto camera because no one in their right mind, when they're sick enough that they can't even leave bed, wants to get in front of a camera and talk about books. Today I got out of bed and I had a shower, and so I figured let's just get this over with, talk about this book, and end this vlog. I had wanted this vlog to have one more book in it, but I'm still not feeling very great, and I have no content planned, so I assumed I would just finish this vlog off, and you will see more SPFBO submission vlogs from me in the future. And Fangs of War is on my TBR for the month, so hopefully I will get to that one this month. But for now, I'm just going to end it here and not pressure myself to read to get this vlog out in a good amount of time, because I'm sick and I just really don't want to read. So yeah, let's get into the book. I really enjoyed this book. I gave it a solid 4 stars, like solid 4 stars. In terms of writing style, this is one of the best indie books I've read. The writing was very mature and well fleshed out. The dialogue wasn't like clunky, and the world building doesn't just all happen in dialogue, which happens in so many indie books where you're just given everything through dialogue. There are some info dumps in here, but in a high epic fantasy, I find info dumps a little unavoidable. If you read Sanderson or Hob, you do get info dumps. Hob is a lot less info dumpy than Sanderson, and I think this leans a little bit more towards Hob style than Sanderson. But yeah, I really solidly enjoyed this one. The magic system in it was very interesting. I found it very cool to see that we are following different cultures living in this land, and their magic all somehow intertwines. Like, you start to see the comparisons between them, and how, although they have taken on the approach to the magic differently, in the end it's still the same magic, if that kind of makes sense to you. And it's a lot about spirits, and the magic is in the air, and so there's aethermancers who can breathe in the aether into their lungs and then expel it and use it as magic, and it's kind of like a burning light that like zaps things and destroys things. I really enjoyed it, and the histories behind the aether in all of the different lands was really cool. I did kind of want this book to be about 100 pages shorter. Not that I didn't enjoy the whole 700 pages or something that it is. Yeah, it's about 682. But it is wordy. It is a wordy fantasy, and there are some scenes, there's a lot of like military battle scenes and things happening that you didn't necessarily need, and I think if we had cut it about 100 or so pages, that would have been nice. I do enjoy that it was long, and I think the fact that it's long is why you get such a well fleshed out world. Like, I truly believe that I can picture this entire world in front of me, and I know how it works. I know the internal issues and things. I feel like this world was just well fleshed out, and I think part of that is due to the fact that it is so chunky. And I mean, I love a chunky fantasy, so I'm not necessarily one to complain about chunk, but I do think as a debut series start, it is smarter to go smaller. Things like even Hob, Assassin's Apprentice, is way tinier than all the rest. Malice is smaller than the rest. I mean, Sanderson started off with, like, Elantris, which is a standalone that's not that big, before going into, like, the world of Stormlight and kind of built up his name. Trader's Blade is smaller than all the rest. I'm literally just, like, looking. I believe City of Brass is smaller than the rest of them. I think it's smarter to sell a bit of a shorter debut.
than going for the chunk at the beginning. I mean, something like Legacy of Ash, which is so chunky at the beginning, they still get bigger. And that's the scary, intimidating thing. The first book in the series is almost always smaller. So the fact that this is a 700-page chunk is terrifying. Because what about the rest of them? But, like, I enjoyed it. Like, I liked the 700 pages. But yeah, I think in strategy-wise, it is smarter. And in the author note, he does say that, like, that's why he ended up going the self-publishing route, is because traditional publishing, they didn't want a debut 700-page book for the start of a series. Marketing-wise, I understand why. Going this big is rough. Also, I need to say that I wish this had a different cover. I hate this cover with every part of my soul. Thinks that this is, like, the worst cover to ever exist. I love the sunset background, and I, like, completely understand why this all makes sense, but the person on the cover just does not do it for me, and I haven't met a single person who loves this. So please, this book needs a cover redesign. And it doesn't give enough away about what the series is about in the end. Like, I've been talking for so long, and I feel like I haven't gotten any points out. Let's go into my ratings, I guess, and see how much I ramble from there, because I have brain fog, and so I'm not sure how good this review is going to be. Oh, I have to talk about the mosquitoes. I loved that there was mosquitoes in this book. I don't know why I thought that was hilarious, that in this epic fantasy world where we have, like, these scary water creatures that can kill you and that everyone's scared of, that need, like, 100 people to kill, the, like, biggest pest in the world is still mosquitoes. I thought it was hilarious because no one likes mosquitoes, and they're so freaking annoying. And the chapter where she's just going off at all the mosquito bites, I just really felt that. I felt that deep in my core. I wanted to kill those buggers for her. Okay, for characters, I do think this is a character-driven book. It is mainly about the characters, although I don't think the characters are given enough unique characteristics, but I think I'm going to put the characters at a 4 out of 5. If you are a character-driven reader, you're going to like this book. There are 3 characters in it, and they're all decently fleshed out. I preferred 2 over 1. The character of Sig, I found him a little just, like, repetitive and annoying, and he just grated on my nerve, but I also think that it was the author's intention to have him that way, because there's something about him that's just like, And, yeah, so I did prefer the girl and our Bryn. I preferred Adalia and Bryn to more than Sig, but I did love Adalia's POVs. I found her very interesting with the way she was kind of learning their world, but still, and, like, referring it back to hers. She did a lot of the explanation of the magic system happened in her chapters, where Sig was born and raised in this culture, so the world is kind of thrown at you in his chapters, where hers, she's questioning everything, and I found I really enjoyed that about her chapters, which is funny, because when I read City of Brass, I found it the opposite. I liked the character who threw you into, like, the politics and stuff, more than I liked the character who was learning everything. Just comparing this book to other amazing, incredible books, because I really, really enjoyed it. For plot, I think I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 5. This book does have plot, but the plot is a military battle, and in the idea of it, that it's not this, like, one driving force that you're going up until this, like, one final point, and it's just, like, this big climax to the end. I found this book to be more of a, okay, we're starting here, we're ending here, and, like, so much happens in the middle. There's no, like, climactic ending. There is, like, a huge battle scene at the end that you're waiting for, but the whole story itself, the plot is more about all the little moments than it is about that, like, one final moment, and I really enjoyed that, but it's a slow and steady pace that not everyone enjoys, and it's not, like, the most, oh my god, and then, like, oh my god, fulfillingness. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, it's just, you take your time with it, and it's well done, but it's not, gasp, we got there. And then for the world, I think I'm giving the world a 4.5 out of 5. I feel like I can't give a full 5. Maybe I can. maybe I can. I think I'm giving the world a 5 out of 5. I really just felt like this world was really well fleshed out between the spirits and the different factions and the different religions and cultures and everywhere we go. I'm very, very curious about the shapeshifters. And I'm excited to see where it goes. Which brings me to something that I'm really annoyed about, which is the author's note. And in the author's note, he kind of talks about, he wrote this book in, 4 months during COVID, which is absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. He wrote a 700-page, amazing debut novel in 4 months. I could be wrong. Please don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what he did. But, in his author's note, he kind of talks about how this took everything out of him and he wants to see it succeed, but he's not sure he'll write another book unless this one succeeds, essentially is what I got out of it. And that kind of lets me down. It kind of annoyed me. If I hadn't known that before, that is something that would turn me away from reading your book. There are series that I will never read because I know that final book is never coming. And that'll just bother me forever, so I just never start the book. I'm talking to you, Name of the Wind. So, the fact that he is kind of relying on this book to get big, I understand, because it's a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of, yourself put into something. But at the same time, as a reader, why would I want to read book 1 of a series knowing that book 2 will never come? So, I think as an author, I get that he was trying to be transparent about it, but at the same time, I don't enjoy that you wrote that, because, I would have preferred if he had sold this as, a standalone, the way, Elantris or Warbreaker are, that Sanderson has been honest that he always plans on continuing that book and making it a series, but for now it stands as a standalone. And I would have preferred that. Make this a standalone. Don't make it book 1 of the Fishgut Guard, because if book 2 is never coming, it's a standalone. And there are some plot lines in this that are set up for the next. There are some plot lines in this that are set up for the next books, so it would be hard to sell it as a standalone, but I feel like you could just tweak it. You could have tweaked it a little bit to make it set up as a standalone, and still left it open enough for that sequel. Because the main plot in this, it's really just Bryn, who doesn't make sense to the main plot of this. The rest of them, if you had gotten rid of Bryn, I could have sold this as a standalone easily. Bryn's chapters are definitely setting up more, and although I loved Bryn and I would not want to get rid of Bryn, I feel like if you could have tweaked him a little bit to make it a standalone. I don't know, this is just a rant about how I hate this, and that, I really, really want the next book in this series, so I'm going to tell you all right now, please pick this book up and read it, because I need it to do good, because I need to know where this world is going. I'm so intrigued. I know I've already said this before, but this is, Sanderson type world building. I know I've said about 2 types of books in this, but I'm just so mesmerized by this indie authors, these self-pubbed authors and their world building. This is so incredible. So well fleshed out. This is, how did someone think of this? And now I need to know. I need to know how the Fishgut Guard comes to be. So please read. Literally, if you're watching this, order this book and read it. Actually, it's on KU. I read it off KU because I was sick and there was no way that this thing was being held over my head, because I was dropping that on me 8 times a day for sure if I did. So I read it on KU. So it is on KU. You have KU. Please check it out. I hope this book goes further, because then he has to write the second one, right? If it makes it to the semifinalist or something, or even close, he has to write the second book, right? So, pretty much, I'm going to be very annoyed if the second book never comes, and, yeah. So, I had really, really hoped that it does, so please pick it up and read it. It was a great book. It was so good. If you enjoy a slow, steady, cultural story, if you picked up The Black Coast because of me, read this. It's that same kind of, learning about different cultures and how they have to, work together, because there's 2 different cultures working on a military battle. If you liked Legacy of Ash because of me, pick this up, because military. This is a great... This is great. I really, really enjoyed this one. Please pick this up and read it. And that now brings us to the end of the vlog. Oh my god, I've been talking for 16 minutes. When will someone shut me up? Okay. here we go. Let's get into the next part. So now comes the end of the video. I am so disgusting, so nasally, and I'm so sorry. I am so sorry you're getting me sick in this video, but I wanted to get it out to you. So sadly, we only read 4 books in this, but since I wanted to like almost continue this as the next 5 months and then the next 6 months or whatever, while SPFBO goes on, I wanted to kind of tier rank my reads. So at this moment in time, obviously In the Shadow of Rune is last because I DNF'd it. And for other stats, I am going to leave this one off just because I can't give it a character rating or anything because I DNF'd it. Based on enjoyment, we have In the Shadow of Rune, then we have A Soul's Aspect, then we have A King's Radiance, and then we have the Nomads of the Sea linked up, stacked up there. I don't think that this list actually changes for anything. I think that based off of characters, it stays the same. Based off of world building, it stays the same. I think based off of plot, actually, in A King's Radiance and Nomads of the Sea switch, I do think A King's Radiance had more of a plot than, was more plot driven than Nomads of the Sea. But here are my first 4 books I've read for the SPFBO submissions. At this time of recording this, none of these have been cut yet. There have been 2 cuts made in the whole challenge blog off thing. I'll link Mark Lawrence's blog down below where you can see, and continually it is updated with reviews and who's been cut and all that. Same with Zach Argyle's blog, which is more of a visual version of it with links to things. And all 4 of these books are available on Kindle Unlimited. Lots of self-pubbed books are available on Kindle Unlimited. I honestly don't know if I've met one that hasn't been. So if you have Kindle Unlimited, you can read some of these. And I highly suggest them. Like, they were all pretty enjoyable. Well, the one that I didn't DNF. But if you enjoyed this video, let me know down below. If you're following along with the SPFBO competition at all, let me know down below. I know in my Patreon, I made a Discord chat for it, and I think I'm the only one following along, but I'm religiously texting Rachel and Mel about it because I'm so intrigued this year to be, like, so part of it, even though I'm not. Like, I'm just pretending that I'm, like, one with it. And then I know Dobnish Books is following along a lot. Obviously, he is actually a reader participator. He's like a judge for Bookborn's blog this year. And in his Discord group, he also has a channel for it that I'm continually refreshing in the morning because they're all from the UK, so they talk while I'm sleeping, and in the morning I have to catch up on everything. But if you're following along, let me know down below. If you have any books that you're really interested in reading, let me know down below out of the submissions, and maybe I'll read them for you, and that can help you. But other than that, if you made it to the end of this video and you'd like to leave me an emoji just to say that you were here, leave me a house emoji. And then if you'd like to connect with me on other platforms, my book Twitter, my Goodreads, my Bookstagram, the Brain Fog is Real, and my Patreon are all linked down in the description bar below. Have yourselves an absolutely remarkable day.